Hi, my name is Yonke, and this is my MFA thesis show. It's entitled We. I wanted to take you on a little walkthrough, so come on in. You can kind of see there's this theme of networks in the show and how people connect, and I've tried to do that interpretation of networks and connection with the various materials, blending a lot of different skills that I am familiar with, like textile and sculpture work, but also photography and collaborative pieces. One of my communities that helped me create this show is my sewing club, and this is an artifact from that photo shoot that you can see throughout the pictures. This group is part of my support system. We're all makers. We are all familiar with textiles. And since I wanted to reinforce this visual metaphor of taking care of each other, we took a shirt on a person, cut it up, and had my sewing club sew this person literally back together. That sewing of people can become also a metaphor for self-care and how we need to mend and maintain relationships. And that helped really connect with that sewing activity and the mending that you see throughout the show. Looking at little networks and then expanding them to larger networks. So these are also some soft pieces that were created and then connected in a little bit more of an extended network kind of formation. I wanted you to be able to take a little bit of the show home with you, so I pre-cut a bunch of screen circles that you can use as patches for your own screens at home. And this material, right, it creates this moire effect depending on how you place and turn that screen, and it changes in really pretty interesting ways. And that it really doesn't have to be perfect, right? They can be just some simple stitching. I do have a community project that I would like to further exploring these ideas where neighbors teach each other different skills. And in that, they make connections, but they also show the value of education. I want people to share skills that they are just passionate about, but skills that really can help us become more self-sufficient in our society, right? So it could be car repair. It could be my own contribution, hopefully, would be mending of clothes, right? And trying to display different ways these flags could symbolize the skill that you want to share, and then you advertise them basically to your neighbors. And so this is my actual mailbox and my skill that I would teach, but it could be a really skilled and specific knowledge base, like car repair. It could also be meal preparation, your favorite recipe. It could be your favorite game. It could be how to balance your checkbook. A variety of different skills which I think are useful, but also create these entry points with your neighbors to connecting and building more community and supporting each other. This is one of the first pieces I made for this project, and I'm trying to use the screen as a metaphor for people, and when the people overlap, you get this moire effect. It's something magical and pretty visually dynamic that occurs when those regular grids overlap and then are slightly twisted. There's also research about how molecular structures, if they're overlaid top each other in this sort of moire pattern, when they're twisted slightly, the electrical conductivity increases. And I thought that that was a really great way of thinking about how people can connect as well and their lives can overlap. So this piece down here, the bottom one, thinking of ourselves as separate. And what happens when we become we? It's important to me that people touch everything in the show, experience it on a physical level, and then think about some of the things it's trying to be symbolic about. I'm trying to kind of blend a little bit of museum studies in with basic, very immediate kinds of understandable directions by using different symbols, talking about heartbeats and those commonalities that we share. As well as how mending the self translates to mending of objects that we own and take care of. The screens really do act architecturally like the skin of a building, and I thought that that also helped connect that connection to the body and that self-care. So connecting via conversation and language, but also just talking about how we connect as people. So part of the show is actually me making clothing that I want people to try on. I'm using the same material that's recognizable, that's everyday, that everyone has a relationship with, and talking about it in terms of the mending, these places where in this one, for instance, this damage is emphasized and the mend is made around it, versus other places where the hole has actually been fixed, and talking about how we can think about that as self-care, and that in the mending community there's also this theory that some mending can be invisible, and that can also connect with the damage that people also have that you might not see, right? So this is using the same material to mend this item with invisible thread, and I'm literally wanting you to try to think of these as people's perspectives. This material is a facade. It's an illusion that you put up between your neighbors. It's for protection from the outside elements, but it also allows those intangible things to come through and permeate. Sights, sounds, smells, and in this instance, metaphorically, emotions. So these are different emotional states and perspectives that I want people to try on. And, connecting with the community project, I really want this sharing of knowledge, this building of networks to open up your worldview, to establish a sense of belonging, a sense of place, a sense of intimacy, and the physical connection of putting this material on your body, I hope, does make that connection for you. Similar along those same lines, a lot of these hats become items that stand for different emotional states. Like this one is anxiety. It's something that from the outside you don't necessarily are percepting or perceiving, but in an internal view you see the chaos that's happening internally. They can become visual metaphors for the duality of people and different sides of a personality in person. Things that we use to hide behind and what we show to the outside world versus what we deflect from the world outside. This hat right here was actually created while I was having a fight with my partner. And so the lines and colors become angular and intense and switching directions quite a bit, and reflected in the threads that are on top of it. Speaking to different kinds of cultural groups with different styles of hats, the screen kind of becomes this internal x-ray of a person's emotions. And this one here, someone almost kind of spiraling out internally. Humans are really complex individuals, so having a lot of variety and complex emotions happening within that same person also are happening on the surfaces of these items as well. And I wanted to set up an area for people to try this work on, so I've made sort of a little bit of a mock dressing room, and there's a mirror for you to try things on and look at yourself, a little selfie wall so that you can take pictures as well. Some of these clothing items became more art objects than they were functional items. So over here, there are scarves that were intended to kind of connect with the winter hats, but they became, again, these more timeline-based type of presentations. And specifically with lighting this show, I did want to play with the shadows. In this one, there's all these overlapping shadows, and the same outside view is mirrored or perceived in multiple ways, and then the ways they overlap as well. Again, you see this heartbeat kind of motif that also I've looked at lie detector tests and, the readings that we can measure from the body and our emotional states. I enlisted the help of my sewing club as well to model some of these items that I made in the earlier stages of their genesis, to encourage people to try these things on, but to, be very playful. A lot of the themes in the show are play and imperfection, and those are wonderful ways to explore ideas. Again, literally trying on different people's perspectives and ideas. They seem to have quite a lot of fun with it. I've placed these photographs on pieces of sheet metal that I sourced from junk piles and friends. Something to note as well, a lot of the screens used in the show were collected from my local hardware store. I asked them to give me screens or collect screens for me that had been damaged that I wanted to avoid them being thrown away. So this reclaiming, this repurposing, mending, the fixing, the care, we don't have to dispose of these materials, that they can be resourced. So more from the shoots of Sewing Club, mending on each other, making that metaphorical body connection. I also wanted to speak about turning away from that disposable culture, and when you turn away from that kind of mindset, you're also turning inward. And these envelopes, these are all junk mail. So these are also sourced from friends and people that I solicited. I've collected them for quite a while, but they become more windows. And I view these strangers and building connections as windows of opportunity. They're opaque, similar to the screens. You can see through them. Things can come back through to you, but they're also a little bit of a facade. Sometimes we hide behind some of those things as neighbors, right? I wanted to create a space where there were two separate entrances, as if, you know, symbolizing two different people entering the same space and working together. So come on in and see that internal space. I'm a teacher and I love teaching. It's some passion of mine, and part of the learning process is this imperfection. So I've tried to give as simple of directions as possible in the show. Take a little screen patch, but also add your own to the works. So you can take a needle, pick a thread, and collaboratively add to the piece behind us here. It's meant to kind of be this butcher paper dispensing this material, and you really can do anything that you want. One of the things working with this material that was challenging but really interesting to think about was that when you sew on fabric, you can hide your stitching, but with this material, this screen, everything is seen. You can't hide your knots. You're not able to make a mistake and cover it up as easily. So thinking about that when using it and taking your ends and weaving them back through to secure them versus knotting is kind of an interesting thing. And it shows our personalities. You know, everybody's unique. And in the learning process, you're not going to do things perfectly. It really kind of takes time to learn a skill, and it can help when you have some sort of mentor. And I really hope to promote this like sharing of knowledge, passing down that knowledge through generations, and all the really amazing and diverse things that can happen when we do that. The last piece in the show here involves layering of the screens, and they have the same men's showing different varieties of techniques, emphasizing it versus hiding it. A lot of these screens, again, I asked online communities to give me their broken screens. And so I left a few that were like really rough looking to kind of emphasize that damage, but seeing the opportunities there. This figure here kind of symbolizes that stranger too. I feel like strangers are really vibrating with possibilities, and so that vibrating stranger there exemplifies it. And, you know, again, you see this layering of these sheer materials and how they interact. You see identifiable people and the shadowing effect on it as well. Thanks for coming to my show. I hope you enjoyed it.